and the festival has invited me to host this panel about the very hot topic of what's the life of shorts after festivals, after the premiere, what's in them for the post-festival lives. Obviously, it's a very dear topic to Portuguese producers, filmmakers, the festivals as well in Portugal. And I'm mentioning Portugal given the fact that we are, of course, hosting this talk in the hope that this brings some light into the Portuguese context. And I think this is quite a common panel to exist in the context of industry festivals, and they kind of repeat themselves a bit, but also it's quite important that they do repeat themselves a bit because it's a market that evolves kind of on a fast pace, and every 2 or 3 years there's a new player, and by player I mean a new VOD, a new streaming platform, a new idea of how can we distribute films, and things can go better or less better according to 2 years. Of course, COVID also could also play a criterion there, and for us it's quite important then to have this talk in the Portuguese context. I would also just give speaking of Portuguese context, I'll give a bit of a input in what recent efforts in the Portuguese context happened with shorts. In 2016, just to speak of the most recent ones, in 2016 we had the film by Leonor Teles that won the Golden Bear at Berlinale, Batraken's Ballad, opening in the cinemas, in 14 cinemas in the country, alongside a feature film of Richard Linklater, his title called Everybody Wants Some. And this was quite a unique, quite rare initiative to happen. And the year after, a Portuguese distribution company called Midas Film also did an effort of putting 3 short films into the cinemas, compiling these 3 short films that had been to international festivals, namely Depois by Marta Mateus, which had premiered at the Cannes, Coelho Mau by Carlos Conceição, which had premiered the Semen na Critique, and finally Cidade Pequena by Diogo Costa Amaranto, which had won the Golden Bear at the Berlinale. Different production companies behind them, and indeed Midas Film, this distribution company, decided to in a leap of faith, sharing these films with the audiences, even if they had already, of course, had their premieres in festivals. So this was post-festival in the national context. And this was 2017. We jumped to 2020, and just recently, so last year, we had a different compilation also happening around short films by 3 women, and namely Dia de Festa by Sofia Bost, which premiered at Semen na Critique, Ruby by Mariana Gaivão, which premiered at Rotterdam, and finally Cães que Ladram aos Pássaros by, again, Leonor Teles, which had premiered at Venice. There were just 2 of them were produced by Uma Pedra no Sapato, Portuguese company by Filipe Reis. Ruby had been produced by another Portuguese company. But Pedra no Sapato itself, as a production company, without the help or without the efforts of a single distribution company, decided to invest in this idea of bringing these 3 shorts, one of them not being part of their roster, to cinemas in Portugal after also their festival premiere. Things actually went quite well, and so they premiered in July in 2020. They stayed for a month and a half, and this was more than in the cinemas, and this was more than expected in the beginning. So there was indeed an interest from the cinemas around the country to host this compilation of shorts. What they had in common, one of the things they had in common, apart from the fact they were great films and that they had premiered internationally, was also the fact that they were filmed by women. And this was a strong link between them, and a way also, of course, to gain interest and raise awareness about this compilation in specific. And then also on a unique kind of, a bit of a unique experience in Portugal, Uma Pedra no Sapato, through its efforts, managed to also sell this program internationally to other cinemas outside of Portugal. At the moment, it's with 5 countries, which are interested single cinemas. In cinemas, of course, there are art house ones which are interested in this program and are buying single screenings or 2 or 3 of this program. This being said, it's quite a rare opportunity to have theatrical distribution in the Portuguese context. Just this, as in the Lisboa is happening now, we have 19. It's finishing tomorrow. We're at the very end of the run here, and we have 19 shorts in competition. 13 of them in world premiere. Curtas-metragens, the other short festival, one of the short festivals in Portugal just happened in the summer and had 17 shorts in competition, national ones. And Doc Lisboa is coming, and it's going to launch another batch of Portuguese shorts into the world, which raises obviously the question of what can we do with these shorts afterwards? Are they going to be seen by someone? How can we, after the festivals, and how can we get them in front of the people? And so for that purpose, we are gathering here these wonderful 4 professionals with us that accepted our invitation to talk to us about their experiences in selling, acquiring, and programming short films. And I would maybe start to ask you, to each of you, maybe starting by Wouter, to just introduce yourselves briefly and tell us a bit about your company, your work, and as well if you had any present or past collaborations with Portuguese cinema in specific, and if you can tell us a bit about that. Thank you so much.
Thanks. My name is Wouter Jansen. I run the company Square Eyes, which is a Vienna-based sales company working with short films and feature films. I work with around 15 shorts and 5 or 6 features every year. And for those films, with the short films, I mainly focus on festival distribution, and for the features, I do world sales. And that's a deliberate choice with the short films to mainly focus on festivals, because I work with quite a specific type of film, which are often more difficult to sell. And I think the main value for these films is often in film festivals. So I think we have 3 films playing at Indie Lisboa this year. Motorcyclist Happiness Won't Fit Into a Suit, a Mexican short film. 1001 Attempts to Be an Ocean, a French short film, and Push This Button If You Begin to Panic, a UK short film. So the longest titles in my catalog. And I've worked with 1 Portuguese film in the almost 10 years that I've been working. That was David Pinheiro Vincente's film Lamb of God that premiered last year in the main competition in Cannes. But yeah, I mean, Portugal is already quite well off with Portugal Film and Agencia already doing most of the work that I would also do for film. But besides that, I think that kind of covers, like, I have a background maybe that's interesting to know in a film festival. So I've been heading a program department at the Go Short Film Festival for 10 years. And that's kind of how I made my start in short film. Yeah, thanks.
Catherine, you want to go after?
Catherine Collard. I work for the old-fashioned medium TV. So I work for Arte, for the French-German cultural channel, and we have a weekly magazine dedicated to shorts, which is called Kurzschluss on the German side, Circuit. And we work with Wouter on some films, and we did a lot for Portuguese cinema. I guess we bought quite a lot, and we co-produced also a few films from Miguel Gomez and from Joe Salavisa. My pronunciation is French, but I hope you understand the names. And we on my side, also we are 3 people working for the magazine. It's running every Saturday night around midnight, and my job is more international than the one the French may have. So I really tend to buy international shorts, Portuguese and others, of course. So. we are quite open, of course, to everything happening, and festivals are a door for us. But we also work sometimes directly with filmmakers, sometimes direct with sales agents. We work quite a lot with agencies here in Portugal. We worked quite a lot with the agency Doct and Vila do Conde. So we are quite. It really depends on the film. So but it's few, of course. Well, I buy perhaps 25, 30 shirts a year, so it's not a lot if you see the range of films and the range of festivals internationally. So it gives you a little idea of how we work. The French colleagues co-produce much more than I do, but they also co-produce some Portuguese films. I think they were involved in the David Pinheiro Vicente film. There are many ways of dealing with arte on the German side or on the French side. We work quite differently.
Let's get to that also a bit more in detail if possible later at some point. Thank you so much, Catherine. Andrea?
Hi everyone, my name is Andrea and I work for Manifest. It's a French short film company, short film distribution company, obviously. I've been working at Manifest for 2 years now, but it's an association. It was created 5 years ago by producers who couldn't take any more care of their short films. And it was their interns that were in charge of distributing the films and sending films to festivals and everything. So the interns weren't doing the intern in production work. They were doing the submission and festival work. So they created Manifest to get rid of this and really focus on production. And Anaïs Colpin, my colleague, started with them 5 years ago, and she is in charge of coordination and everything, and most importantly sales, and being in a relationship with TV networks and platforms and everything. But I'll do my best to talk about that subject today. And I am in charge of festivals. I'm the first contact when it comes to festival submissions, the relationship between I'm the link between festivals and directors and producers. I'm in charge of sending the material when there are selections and asking for screening fees and all that. So that's what we do. We have more than 200 films in our catalog. So since 5 years, and I think we have 50 short films that are in distribution right now that we really take care of. So yeah, we take care of everything.
And Andrea, just to complement, you wouldn't work with any Portuguese shorts, or would you if it was co-produced by France? Because you only work with French shorts, if I'm not mistaken.
We mostly work with French shorts, but we're really in a position right now where we want to expand and be more international, and that's also why I've been to Indie Lisboa, because we never worked with Portuguese films, and we really want to. And I saw so many great films. There's this one called Garças, directed by Gabriela Nemesio Nobre. It was my favorite film of this, I think. So I tried to reach her.
Watching.
Hi, Gabriela, if you're. So I loved it, but I'm not the one to choose. So I sent it to my team, and maybe we'll work together, I hope. And if it's not that film, it's going to be another Portuguese film. And yeah, we're really in that position right now.
Wonderful. It's a wonderful film. I agree with you for sure. Thank you so much, Andrea. Michel?
Hi, so I'm Michiel. I'm a programmer, short film programmer, short film coordinator for Filmfest Ghent, the biggest film festival in Belgium, in the city of Ghent. We program, and we have an international short film competition. We have a Belgian student short competition. My relationship to Portuguese cinema, I wrote my thesis on Miguel Gomes when I graduated. And for example, of course, I've programmed Portuguese short films. Last year, the winner of our international short film competition was Pedro Peralta with Perpetual Night. And this year, we are very happy that he will come to Ghent to be in the jury. So yes, I've always been an admirer of Portuguese cinema. And for example, Indie Lisboa is always a festival which I check, the lineup, the shorts that are selected, etc.
Great, thank you so much. Everyone really touched upon festivals, of course, because it's one of the main, if not the main, launching pads for short films. Indeed, as I mentioned in the beginning, some of them, and also in general, as we know, some of them stop there. That's the only circuit they do have. I think we can start, but they are indeed the launching pads for later if they have the potential. There's just so many sales, and there's so many opportunities for the immense amount of short films that are launched into the world by each country, by each festival that has from 5 to 10 festivals in each country. So it's of course only natural that a few of them stay in the festival realm, and that's, I would say, quite okay, given also depending on the goals and the aspirations of each filmmaker. I can only imagine that a few are just interested in putting out there for a while, then some others are interested in actually going along and maybe trying to being seen by international audiences, and some of them, maybe even in production companies, could have the aspiration of trying to get some little money back, some monetization of it. And so we'll be handling throughout this conversation, we'll be handling the whole arch of what it's possible to do once you have a shot in your hands. I would love to just calmly to begin to ask you, to each of you, speaking of festivals, which ones you think are, if you can name us a few that are, and if you have actually festivals that are for you references, where you always pay attention because you want to program from there, you want to buy from there, or you want to represent from there. And this is, of course, depending on, obviously, on a curatorial line, which is only normal.
I can start maybe. So for me, because I work with so few films, like ideally, of course, I work with films before this festival, so that I can help the filmmaker actually get into those festivals. But besides that, because I really want to always work with films as early as possible, I just look at festivals where I know films are premiering. So this is mainly the kind of A-list festivals. So like the Rotterdam Tiger competition is always something I look at, Berlinale Shorts, and also a little bit in the Forum Expanded section there. Then Cannes, I would say mainly the Semen right now that I look at, and then Locarno, Venice, a little bit at North American festivals, but not so much, but then more like a New York Film Festival at Camden, where I know that the programming is a bit more experimental. Those would be the main festivals where I look at. Sometimes I feel like I should be looking more at national competitions at some festivals where films are world premiering, but in the end, I just don't really have the time to do that. So I think I focus mainly on, I think like half of my catalog is films that I work with before they premiere, and then the other part are films that I picked up around their premiere in one of these festivals. Yeah.
I can continue, perhaps, Anna. Mm-hmm. So Arte has, of course, some specific festivals on the German side, because we have partnerships with some festivals on the German side. So we have a partnership with the Berlinale. So of course, the Berlinale at the beginning of the year is for me a big event, and also a big. I find every year, of course, 3 or 4 films that I buy for the program at the Berlinale. So it launches more or less the year. And then we have also, the French have a strong relationship with Clermont, with with other festivals on the French side, and we have partnerships with Max Ophüls, which is a German speaking festival, and Berlinale. Then we have also a partnership with Dresden and partnerships with the festival in Hamburg, which is now curated by Michael Mia-Höhne. So these, of course, I watch all the programs because we also give an Arte prize. So these are, of course, the festivals I tend to look at. But otherwise, I mean, the choice is difficult for me because I have so little money and so little space for films. So I receive, of course, not weekly, but weekly. I don't know how many films that I don't see. I must admit, I don't watch all the Vimeo links that I don't know how you do it, but it's for me the biggest door is of course the festival and people I know I work with, like Wouter, that know the films that I can choose. They send me a few links. Of course, then I watch them. That's how we work. But I think for me it would be the Berlinale is a good launch for me. And Villa do Conde also. I've been in the jury twice. So there are some big festival that I tend to watch, but it's too. It's difficult. It's too many, so that I tend also, of course, to focus on a few and to guide myself with people that I work with. We work also with the short film agencies in every country. We work with the agency in Villa do Conde. We work with the German Kurze-Agentur. So we with the Finnish one also. So we have of course some partners that we regularly work with. I hope that was more or less clear.
Super, actually, Catherine, thank you so much. It's clear how there needs to be a filter. You can't obviously just watch everything. So you work with partners that already filter, that know exactly or very well what the magazine you program is into and their audiences. So it makes sense that there's a kind of a gatekeeping way of working in that sense, for sure. Thank you so much, Andrea.
Yes, I same as Wouter. I don't know how to say your name. I'm sorry. I mean, like you said, Anna, festivals and selection in festivals are an essential part in the short film industry career, specifically for that industry. And it's important for the film's career, the directors and the producers as well, because if the producers have films that have selection in prestigious festivals, then they will be more known and have maybe more sponsors and more money for their future films. So yeah, a lot of people are involved. And how we find films when we don't receive them, because we receive them daily. Just like Catherine, we receive a lot of short. But when we don't receive them, we rely on A-list festival selections a lot, like Locarno, Venice, Rotterdam, etc. And we now have affinities and trust with those festivals because we've been here so long. And we know we won't be disappointed on their yearly selections. And another thing, if we're looking for a special thematic film or films, then we'll go to find thematic festivals. Like if we want a film with Mediterranean subjects and problematics, then we'll go look for Cinemed's selection. Cinemed is a French short film festival specialized in Mediterranean films. So that's how we do it.
Wonderful, thank you, Andrea. And Michael, I can only imagine that for you it's most of actually all festivals around the globe, because you receive submissions. But if you want to just briefly tackle.
I think most has been said already. Like, of course, you have the A-listers like Locarno and Berlin that you check. For example, if I'm looking for a documentary short, I might check out Vision du Réel or Fit Marseille. I think they have an interesting selection every year. And New York, like Wouter said, is also a selection that I go through every now and then. And apart from that, of course, yeah, it's a lot of submissions that I have to watch. And there you can see that's not every, or that maybe more filmmakers need a sales agent or a producer, because they pay a submission fee, but they're not always very aware of the type of films that like, for example, my festival program. So sometimes it's, I think people need to be very selective with the festivals they submit to. And of course, that's why sales agents are there, to help them with that.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And Wouter touched upon an important aspect of festivals, which are the national festivals, of course, like in Lisbon, that premieres, and so many other festivals that premiere and will premiere new talent. They're not exactly, they might not have yet the world premiere in a big festival. But of course, there's always some hidden gems in these in good festivals that premiere national work. As Wouter mentioned, it's kind of impossible to tackle upon all the festivals that do this good work of finding talents. But is there any? I would love to ask if, in your opinion, both as sales and festivals, if there's something that these national festivals that premiere national talents, if there's something that they can do to enhance the life expectation of a short film after their premiere at their own festival, whether it is to have a strong industry side, whether it is to identify very well which ones are a world premiere in their catalog, what kind of help can they give to their own filmmakers? Whoever wants to go first.
I can go first. Having selections will definitely enhance the film's career, obviously. For example, in France, we're lucky to have the Clermont-Ferrand International Film Festival. It's an A-list festival, but it's also a huge international film market. So our selected films there will live a peaceful life, for sure. Having films presented at Clermont-Ferrand will determine our year. In general, we don't struggle a lot with our national premieres because we have those huge festivals like Clermont, obviously, but also Cannes Film Festival, the biggest film festival in the world, right? That would be, if we have selected films there, it will be at the same time our world premiere and also our national premiere. So it's easy. And for international premieres, we'll make sure to privilege A-list festivals again, and Oscar qualifying festivals and Canadian Screen Award festivals, and big festivals like that. But like shorts and Palm Springs, Sundance in the USA, and Rotterdam in Netherlands, and so that's what we do for our premieres. And we talk about premieres when we make up the strategy with the film team. When we get film, we do a reunion, and sometimes there's producer and the director, and sometimes there's just the director, and they say, okay, we want to start by that festival for a big premiere, or we trust you, just do your thing. And we talk about this first, and then we do the submissions.
From my perspective, like I'm thinking a bit more back to when I was programming, is that with the national competition, in the end, as a festival, you always talk about talent development. And I think on the national level, this is, I think, most apparent, that you really try to push these directors and kind of give them that step into the international world. And that's in one way, like I have that connection now with a lot of festivals, that they reach out to me and just say like, hey, these are the shorts that you should watch from our competition. So like the new films that they're like, okay, I think this could have potential. I know that there's also a lot of festivals that do that for more sales. Like I remember that Brest was always really good in this, in kind of making packages that I would have like a few selected title, and then sales agent television that was there, they would give them titles, so that you really as a festival kind of advocate for those films. And at the same time, sometimes it's also kind of letting go of your ego as a programmer, and that you say like, okay, I know this film is out there, but I think that for the director, it could maybe be better to have a shot at like this big platform. So I remember that a few years ago, there was this Dutch film Import by Enes Sendiarovic, which was finished in January, February. So we already knew about it for Go Short, because our festival would be in April. But we were also aware that the director really wanted to go for like a Cannes festival. So at that point, we're also not aggressively trying to get that film and have the premiere, because we know that for this person, it's better to actually take that shot and be able to present it as a world premiere in a festival like Cannes. In the end, it also ended up premiering at the Quinzaine back then. So it's also kind of like giving advice to directors like, hey, maybe you could try something like this. This is throughout the year. But also then making space for a director to actually do that instead of trying to get those films for yourselves. Yeah.
No, I have to completely agree with that. We did have at least one case this year, that of a film that got to us in a working kind of a cut, what it was supposed to maybe be a final cut. And as a team, we got together and we thought of what could be the best for this film, and we decided that it wasn't yet ready. And we know the person behind well. It screened with us before. It was a short film. And we made a point out of explaining and trying to really be on the side of that film. Like, instead of, it was a short that we actually really, really loved, but it wasn't right yet there. And I think that's important for sure, as you mentioned, Walter, to not be too eager. There's always next year, and also what's important is it's that the short has the best path possible.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone has anything to add on this.
Well, all I can add to Wouter's point, or actually it's not even adding, but yeah, as a festival, when you program the national competition or the national selection, what we do as well is it's nothing very structural, but it's more informal, let's say. But reach out to programmers that you might know and let them know, like, this might be a good fit for your festival. This might be a good fit for your festival. I'm still quite young and new in the industry, let's say, but every year the network is growing and growing. So this way, you hope you can make a difference for filmmakers, and the best, it has worked for many films. So it's always good to see that a film premieres at your festival and then has another life afterwards. So
absolutely, but we need time, right? It needs a lot of time that you actually want to give that same chance to all the films that you think have a potential to go somewhere after the national premiere. But that's a whole other conversation, how much time people have in hands to do their work outside of like going the extra mile, of course, besides what they already do. Maybe we can talk a bit about the awards. Are they important? Are they not? Should we be that focused on them? Besides the fact, of course, that money that comes in is always super important, of course, especially for shorts, to cover any expenses. If a filmmaker or a producer wins an award with a world premiere or not, and they have a film that is not yet with the sales, is it interesting that they come to you, or to you as well at Arte, Catherine? Do awards are for you important, and if yes, in which context?
They may be, but they're not necessarily my main focus, I must admit. I haven't bought all the Berlinale Goldene Beeren. I haven't. It's. I worked a lot, and all of us have worked in juries, so we know how sometimes the prices. Now, I don't want to. It's always difficult. It's a difficult job also to be in a jury. So it may help, of course. It may help for me if I have a difficult film, and I have to I'm choosing the films, but I have the procedure in Arte, so it has to go to the Programmkonferenz. So you have some. So if it's a difficult film and it has won a prize, it may be easier for me to get it through. But it's not. I'm not obsessed at all with prizes. If it's an answer, I really try to find films that are interesting, that are strong enough, that may represent some. It's always a puzzle. Our magazine also, and we have. I try to choose other films that the French do, that my other German colleague chooses. So I really try to show to the audience a landscape of what's going on. So it's not necessarily a prize.
Michiel, did you want to?
Okay. No, you can go first. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to, like, not every prize is the same. Like, I think that for the big festivals, definitely it can have a big impact. Like winning in a Clermont-Ferrand, really, like, that you're set for France after that. Like, every festival will play you. I worked with a film, Écorce, a Swiss film that premiered last year in Locarno, and we just won the Crystal Bear, in Annecy for best short film. We won. And then we noticed that festivals that have rejected the film suddenly want the film. We had a film, I had the luck to work a couple of times now with a film that won a Palme d'Or. There we also had that buyer said no to the title, but then afterwards they were again interested just to be able to present the Palme d'Or of that year. So it does, in those things, it makes a difference. But as Katrien says, I also kind of know how a jury works. So sometimes I see a film that made sense giving an award in the context of that competition, but in itself, I don't necessarily think it has that much effect. And also because there's now so many submissions that you're getting, festivals, I have the feeling, become less and less eager in requesting films after they win, for instance. So even the effect of having a film in a A-list festival now compared to 5 years ago, it's completely different. Like before, you would get like 20, 30 requests as the selection gets announced. Now, sometimes it's 5. So people are just, it doesn't have the same impact anymore because people already have trouble getting through the films that they get submitted to them anyway. So I think that's a bit of a difference. And for me, it also doesn't, like, I try to watch films before they play in the festival. So I watch like the whole Berlinale short selection before the Berlinale takes place so that I can really meet the team already in the festival, for instance. Then sometimes I have directors coming back to me like, hey, you said you turned the film down, but now we won. But then in the end, like, it doesn't change the film for me. And I think like you have to stand behind what the film is, separate of an award. So for me, it doesn't really change that much. I think it's really the big festivals where it can really have a change for the career of the film.
Yeah. No, what you say is very important. The fact that awards could be, in the end, just an important way, of course, but of convincing an audience, for instance, or the press, bringing the attention into the film, given that the quality is already there, of course. More as a way to convince stakeholders, whether they're audiences or press or etc. Sure. We should maybe talk about the curation, even if we already tackled a little bit on it, and specifically get to know what you're interested in. What kind of works do you acquire, and can you be approached directly by a producer, or should you be approached by a sales, in your case, Katrien, or by an agency as well? And then if you can tell us a bit about what ratio, more or less, of acquisitions do you have? If it tends towards fiction, if it tends towards documentary, if there's a big animation ratio, etc.
So many questions in one. Alors, I don't know. I guess on my part, I guess I'm the more on the French do a lot of animation. My French colleagues Arte France, and they co-produce a lot of animation. So I tend to so I begin with buying. So I tend to I'm more the art house one in the court-circuit world. So I tend to buy the more difficult ones, if I can say so. So it can be also sometimes hybrid between documentary and fiction. It can be something more experimental. But you shouldn't say that to my bosses. It's always fiction that we buy. Okay. But so it's vague. It really depends. But I try to open up to documentaries and hybrid documentaries because I find them very interesting. I mean, there are a lot of interesting stuff on festivals and existing now. So this is on my side, and I can't remember the other questions. How we choose our.
Yes, I will choose indeed your curatorial approach.
Well, but it as
your catalog.
But we have I have 12 magazines a year that I have to. It's like a puzzle, you know. You have 3 films in the magazine, more or less, and then you have little interviews with the filmmakers or with some. So we have also specific topics that we work on. So we have this in October. We have a special deal on horror. So I had to find horror films, and I bought a little one which is wonderful, Heat, from a Danish filmmaker. So sometimes I have to find. Sometimes I have to. The films don't come to me, but I have to try to find them. So in some specific ways. Otherwise, I let myself. It's a little bit also my own. Way of choosing that I see films and I say this one I have to show it, and then I have to compose a magazine around it. So and find films which can be a complement of the first one that I chose. So and I have to see how it suits in a 52-minute long program. So it's always each magazine is different, and it's each time it's a puzzle. So so I tend to sometimes I have to find films because it's a specific topics. Otherwise, sometimes I have like the film Sundog that I bought by Word last year. Then I think we have to show this one, and then I build up a magazine around this one. So it depends. It's always I don't co-produce that much. I co-produce perhaps 3-4 films a year. So I don't I really focus on buying things that are already finished, more or less. I haven't said everything you wanted me to say, Anna, but I will come back to it. Huh?
It's fine. Perfect. Great. Thank you. Walter or Andrea, as you feel.
Maybe I'll go first. So the question was how we choose our films, right? Well, for films to go into the Manifest catalog, there are 2 ways for that. Because it's an association, there are members, right? So we call them internal members of Manifest. And there are external, and I explain what they are. Internal members are production companies that we take care of their whole catalog. Even if we don't have a soft spot for all their films, we have to take care of their whole catalog, and in exchange, they contribute to the association life, to a Manifest project and organization and screenings. And we do member screenings in cinemas where there's 1 film per production company that wanted to participate to the screening. So there's a lot happening. And external members of Manifest, so that relies on films that we receive through email, films that we see in festivals and that we really love. And there is a soft spot for the films or the production company that could be interesting for us, and we love their work in general, and directors. So if there's a director that we love, we can directly look for its film. And so that's how we choose, but we don't have a thematic way of choosing. We have sci-fi, we have youth films, we have comedy, a lot of drama, but I'm taking care of that. I want more comedy in our catalog. So yeah, we have a very various catalog and are not very specific on what we want.
Okay.
Yeah, I think for me, it's also about the catalog. It's difficult to say. I think that if you see the films that I work with, there is some kind of coherency in it, I think. But then at the same time, I try to have like quite different films from each other. So if you see 1001 Attempts or Motorcyclist, it's really different films. But both are just a bit more daring, I think. I don't have that many really straightforward narrative films. So I work with all genres. So it's like this year, it's, I think, almost like 1/3 animation, 1/3 documentary, 1/3 fiction. Then people can just approach me with films. This year I have 0 films, I think, of people that just send me an email. But for instance, last year, 2 of the films that we had in the main competition in Cannes, I'm Afraid to Forget Your Face and Stephanie, both got sent to me. With one of them, I already knew the director's other work. With the other title, I didn't. So I do try to keep up to date, but it's mainly, I really try to like watch films, and then if I see a film that I like, to just keep in touch with the director. So often I don't work with the first film of somebody, but I do work on the second film, or that I work with a film that I picked up from a different festival, and then I get contacted with their next project. And then similar to Manifest, I since this year have one company that I now have a collaboration with, where I'm going to handle all the films, because they wanted to do something internally, but they work with a lot of directors that I love. So, and I like the company a lot. So I decided in the end that it would maybe be interesting to try this out. So that's with Petit Chaos in France, who are now producing the new Femme Nok Lan, the new Yu Yanwang film. They just did Payal Kapadia's film. So so far, yeah, a lot of the directors I already worked with before that. So this is just a collaboration I'm really enthusiastic about, and they don't do that many films, so it's also easier in a small catalog. Yeah.
No, that's exciting that you mentioned Petit Chaos, because of course it's also the relationships you build and maintain with producers, and you know that it's a certain producers that you follow, and there's a reason why you follow them. It's because they produce the type of films you also are seeking. Then you'll trust that they will deliver something that you'll be interested in, and at least it will be on your list of priorities to check their films. It might not happen, but it might also happen. So it's also important that producers, of course, maintain good regular, not as much as possible, because no one has the time to, and we shouldn't overload each other with emails, and that we should do our work of indeed sharing tips and being in contact when we have something good new for a sales agent. I guess we can, unless anyone wants to jump with any other questions.
I just wanted to add, pardon, Michel. No, it's interesting to see that we work more or less with the same people, but I work also with Petit Chaos for the Phlang Long Lang. We are co-producing this one with them, but it's. I mean, our job also is to stay open. So we don't work always with the same people. We really try to stay open, and it's difficult also, but it's really also one of the goal of the job to really to stay open and to be to have no particular people you're working with and closing doors. So that's what I wanted to say.
I wanted to add something really short about what Wouter said, like about sales agent having a sort of being as a curator as well which I think is very helpful because I've worked with Wouter already, with Square Eyes, and I've worked with Manifest as well, with Anaïs, your colleague, Andrea. And even though you both have a wide variety of films and a varied selection, there is a certain editorial line there, and there's some creatorship going on there, which I think for a programmer is very interesting. When you're making a program, I might need a film like this. Maybe I can check what Square Eye says, or I might need something like this. I might check with Manifest. So I think it's good as a sales agent not to just take everything and to lose that that form of curatorship. That's something I thought of.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Michel. And maybe Andre and Wouter, regarding when a producer comes to you and you do decide to then go forward with the film, can you share with us more or less, you don't need to go into details if you can't, what's the standard deal? How do you acquire your films?
So you mean like the financial kind of,
and also and also how do you propose to work together with them?
Yeah, so I think Andrea also mentioned it, like I also take over everything. So at the moment somebody starts working with you, you kind of help out with everything. Sometimes I see a film and I think like, oh, this is a lot of sales potential. Then I actually look for if I can find somebody who really wants to do sales. So for instance, I often work together with Martin at New York Film Sales. So that's because I know that I don't have the time for the shorts to really get everything out of it. So if I see a film that's in a way a bit more accessible. So this year, the two films we had at Semaine de la Critique, Lily Alone and Noir Soleil, both are with New York. So then rights-wise, we also split it that I take everything festival-oriented and they take everything outside of festivals, so non-theatrical and everything. But a lot of films don't have that. And then I take exclusively the festival rights and non-theatrical, and then I help out with sales. But I also, because I'm not full on doing it, if they would meet Catherine somewhere and she's interested in the film, then I don't have to step in because I know that they did it on themselves. So I'm not too difficult in that. And then usually festival-wise, I do it for around 2 years. And after that, we usually have an agreement that I can just keep on doing it. And then I take a split of screening fees after that. And in the beginning, they pay me a small sum based on the amount of work that I'm doing. And it's usually between 1,000 to 1,500 euros that I charge. Mm-hmm. But then if a film is really successful through screening fees and everything, I kind of can earn some more money for the additional work that gets put in. But this is mostly because of this focus on festivals. I really aim to have that exclusive so that I'm completely, that they have the complete overview, knowing that we won't have an issue with that we get selected in 2 festivals because the producer sent it somewhere and I wasn't aware of that. So it's really, I'm on top of everything when it comes to that, and they just have to visit the festivals after that. But I make sure that the practical side, everything gets arranged. Yeah.
And just to complement awards-wise, is there any deal you do with your producers?
Yeah, so I don't take any money up to the first €5,000, and after that I usually take 10%. That's again because they just pay me for the initial work. So sometimes I make a strategy, like a film like Sundog. I said, I think it's too difficult film for a lot of festivals. So let's do a really focused strategy of 70 festivals. Then it won Rotterdam. Then it started winning almost every festival. I mean, it won in Ghent, I think a special mention also where it premiered. After that, it just started doing really well. So then I do suddenly more than double the work. And then through this commission, I can kind of earn back a little bit of that money as well. But then still, a lot of festivals don't even reach that threshold of 5,000. Yeah.
It's quite interesting what you said about giving the sales to another company. Portugal Film did that with a feature that I can remember. Maybe they've done with more, where they handled the festivals and then theatrical exhibition and sales, etc. You can hand over to to someone who's more into the business side of things, while Portugal Film, who really knows how to handle festivals, and it's a bit of a market with less money. So of course, sales can do their big part of that big business part of their jobs, and can leave the festivals to someone who's mostly and very well versed on that, like yourself actually, Wouter.
But business-wise, it's not like the best decision for me, because there is like, you can do a small deal and earn more than I earn with the film in festivals. So there's films where I didn't break even, but because they did the sales themselves, they earned money on that side. So, but it's more also like a transparency thing from my side, that I don't want to give them the feeling that I will be doing sales while I know that I don't have the time to fully explore everything. So by saying I won't be doing that, I will only help out if you don't have somebody professionally doing it. They also don't have the expectancy that they will be earning like loads of money with this film because I'm on board as a sales agent, while I know it's a difficult title. Yeah.
I won't add much, because I think that we have a very similar way of working than with Wouter's company. So we, as I said, like 5 times, I take care of everything. We take care from A to Z to the whole career of festivals, but sometimes it's very rare, but sometimes some production companies don't want us to take care of the festival submissions. So we only take care of sales, or vice versa. Sometimes we only do sales and they don't want us. No, I just say that. No, so we take care of sales and not festivals. I mean, two-way. And there's like a monthly charge per month per film, and it the whole fee, it's for everything that we do, except the fees that we have to pay for festivals that are quite expensive, and that we have like relationship with festivals now, and with big festivals also, and they sometimes send us waivers and these discount codes, so that we don't pay at all the submission, or we pay a little bit, but when they don't, the producers pay, and it's not included in the monthly fee that they pay us for our work. I don't know if that makes sense. It's complicated to explain in English, but it does make sense.
Thank you, Andre. I guess we can jump in also into, we're already getting to an hour here, but it would be interesting, even if you don't do sales on your side per se, you do actually a bit manifest, Wouter not. If you can share with us what you expect to be the post-festival life of a short that you might have at Manifest, whether it's theatrical exhibition, whether it's streaming services like VOD, like SVOD, TVOD, AVOD, whether it's selling to TVs like Arte or cable, or those TV on demand. There's a big array. There's the DVD even options that sometimes some distribution companies venture into. There's a few cases in Portugal. Then there's the airplane chances, and there's of course as well the educational circuit. So in the end, there is even if it's not a quite easy to monetize format, there's many chances of making a little bit of exposure and eventually some money here and there, if that's a criteria at all.
Something that I find interesting as a programmer is, but I don't know how much money is in there. I'm not sure. But nowadays there's lots of websites like Le Cinema Club, like Nowness, like Short of the Week, which are basically curated programs. Well, not even programs, like every week or every week there's one new short film that gets the highlights, that gets accompanied by either a piece of criticism or an essay on the film. to me, that's very interesting because it makes, first of all, there's a discussion going on about your film. Second of all, your film gets exposure. And, me as a programmer, I like, for example, we in Ghent, we ask for a Belgian premiere. But if the film has been shown, for example, at a platform like the Cinema Club, okay, let's be flexible, as long as it didn't have a theatrical premiere in our country yet, why not? Let's program it if it's good. I think many filmmakers, also without sales agents, they put their film on Vimeo. They have it protected by passwords, which you should do in the beginning, I guess. But they keep it like that after their festival run, and the film gets seen by nobody, which I think is a pity. And there's more and more filmmakers who make their films accessible. Like Nicolas Pereda, and the Mexican director who just has his features on his Vimeo channel, which is great. So, I mean, at least your film gets seen by people. And this way, it's also curated, with the Cinema Club and Short of the Week. Because I'm always afraid, especially with short films, if you sell them to a big VOD platform, then what will happen with them? Will people see the films? Of course, if you can make a buck, there's something to be said there as well. But yeah, those are my thoughts on it.
Thank you, Michael, for sure. Those websites you've mentioned, we can always add as well the Mubi and all the streaming platforms such as Filmin, Spamflix, Agência here in Porto has their own VOD on Vimeo. Filmmakers can also, and producers can also eventually put their films on Vimeo on demand and sell them singularly. And that's actually something interesting I would like to tackle upon, which is we don't see as many shorts as you would expect on Vimeo on demand as standalone, as single objects to be able for the audience to buy and see it on online. Do you have an idea of why would that be? Why are there not more shorts being available like that in that format?
I think like the biggest issue with shorts is that people don't really want to pay for it outside of festivals. I think like also kind of piggybacking off what Michiel said, there's a lot of these platforms which you do for prestige. So having a Vimeo staff pick gives you a lot of attention, Short of the Week a bit less. The Cinema Club is more in that art scene where it works well and has more prestige, but all of them don't pay. So it's really about that. And then you have a platform like Mubi, which also has this prestige, also doesn't pay like a lot, but it is like a director often wants it because of that. And then you have all of these online platforms like Filmin, DA Films for documentary. I think the past year and a half, there's more and more approaching me who don't pay almost anything. Like you get like half a cent for every stream, and you only get paid after they earn $100 or something. So this discussion is also really about like what is the value of your short film, and is it maybe better to leave it Vimeo password protected in your account and nobody can see it, with the hope that when you do your feature or maybe a few shorts later that something also has more value. So for instance, now I worked with a number of films of Jacqueline Lansou, who just has a feature out, premiered in Berlinale Encounters. And this year, she's getting asked more for retrospective. So also in Ghent, she will have a retrospective and the feature will be premiering there. So it's also like the idea of not having these films everywhere available makes it more interesting to do programs like this. So that can also be kind of a strategy. And I think that in the end, like a lot of films are just not suitable for a lot of things. Like airlines are really specific about what they want to show content-wise. Television is really limited because there's just not that many slots. And if you have a documentary, it's already difficult. Then you think more about platforms like a New York Times, OpDocs. This year, a film that I worked with was sold to ESPN, Das Spiel from Roman Hodel, which was in Venice because it's about a soccer referee. So then it got purchased by the sports channel. But all of this is not so much anymore post-festival. I think this is probably also the last 4 years that everything has gone much more at the same time. So when I work with a sales agent, we're really looking at windows like, okay, Spain is interested, Arte is interested. How long would we need to keep this premiere for Germany or France? And when would they be able to broadcast? And then we just work towards those moments. So the film might be a few months old and is already screening on television just because we don't need the premiere requirement anymore for that territory. So you kind of do it at the same time. And I think online also is becoming earlier and earlier, like especially now. I think the last 2-3 years, you see it more with the Oscar campaigns, that people use a Vimeo staff pick, for instance, to push the film for the Oscars to get more visibility. So you have a film that premiered in Cannes in May and was in October, November online on Vimeo because they just wanted to go for that Oscar. So it's the timing is like, I think because festivals have become so expensive, people just want to get the film out there and not pay more and more money on getting it into festivals. I think that's probably also maybe if somebody does it by themselves. I think that if Manifest or I would be on the team, we would probably try to persuade them from doing something like that because we know that there's a lot of value to be gotten from festivals. But that everything is now it's not so much anymore 1.5 year festivals and then you start looking at other stuff. It's all at the same time. Like you need the sales agent on board at the moment of the premiere to immediately talk to these to buyers to see for channels and then just reach out to that. And but it's just in the end, like there's around 10,000 short films being made every year. And I think that all of these options are for maximum 100 films. So then you have all these other films that don't get on television, maybe go on a VOD channel, but don't get money. And then the people for who this Vimeo on demand works, that's like Don Hertzfeldt premiering his new World of Tomorrow. People know his name, people are waiting for this, and then he sells it like a lot of times on. But would somebody look for the new Fam Nok Lan on Vimeo on demand? I don't know. Like I think he's still too unknown with a bigger audience. So it's for a lot of people, this just doesn't really make sense. And then you get more that if Indie Lisboa would start their own Vimeo on demand channel, and that I know that people from Portugal who know what Indie Lisboa stands for would be watching films there, then that might be interesting for me to put my films on because you have people know the identity of the festival. They might not know the films, but they can kind of use that as a gateway to find these films. So I think this gatekeeping, what we talked about in the beginning, is always important, whether it's a Vimeo short of the week or it's a festival, but having a film on itself, it's just really difficult to find that audience, I think. And then having the Palme d'Or or something on it can help again. But it's just about like how you can communicate this film and sell it to an audience. Yeah.
Maybe I can say a little bit about the French perspective on this, because I mean everything has been said, and I agree when Wotos says that everything happens at the same time. After there's 1.5 years festival, and then no, everything happens at the same time. But there's also steps for post-festival careers for films. So after having sold films to Arte or Canal Plus or more bigger channels like that, because that happens, I think I'm not wrong when I say that, but that happens mostly during, like before or during the festival career, because there's exposure and everything. And then we reach other TV channels, like in France we have Ciné Plus or OCS, and they purchase older films that are not exclusive anymore. and the contract can last 3 to 6 years. And abroad, we can have like Shorts TV in the UK or Chat TV in Russia that are looking for comedy or sci-fi. It's always very specific, and they don't care about the production year of the film. The way they choose may have to be with the valorization of the selections that the film had previously and the film's career in general, but they really don't care about the production date either. Then there are VOD platforms like in France we have Universiné, but there's also platforms abroad that reach out to us. And it's not really VOD, but there's Vimeo Staff Pick. I don't know if you heard about that. And it's like they shine a light on films that did a great festival career. So really films that made a difference in festivals and had a lot of awards. And then we have the Extra Court Dispositif, that is like a best of curated by the French Short Film Agency, and for that they're more interested on films, on the film's duration instead of the film's production year. Again, so it's always below 8 minutes or like 5 minutes, and they still, they don't care about the production date. And then there are more institutional programs in middle schools and high schools and prisons and associations, and for the French Institute also. And thematics screenings are a huge part of the process of the post festival career of the films. Platforms often come find us looking for special thematics like Halloween, like Artes, I think is going to do something for October, November, I think. LGBTQI plus films, films directed by women, and youth films and comedy, and that's very, very specific. And also festivals that want to make a best of their most awarded films, for example, they reach out to us, and then we ask them to pay a little fee for that because it's an outside screening. So yeah, I think I said almost everything that happens.
Yeah. I have to thank you so much, Andre. I think, and Wouter, I have to also agree on Michiel's side of having, as a programmer, of course, and not as a not as a sales or etc. Something quite frustrating about short films. It's when they do a festival run, they're available once or twice in some place, and then they disappear completely off the world. And unless you really know the right solvers, but of course that's from the perspective of a programmer or curator, you can actually reach out to a producer or sales that you tracked. The streaming platforms are an excellent place to find older films, and I'm thinking of Filmin, of Tank, T-Port for school films, Mubi, of course, even if then it's a more curated approach. Criterion, that also really doesn't care much how recent the films are or not. But then it comes the question of how much work does this mean indeed to the sales and the producers if they're not getting money out of it. What's in it for them to do these efforts. I don't know, Wouter, if you want to add something on the fact of how much should you work with these platforms.
How do you mean? How much should you work with these platforms?
Not that you work, because you already were quite clear about the fact that for you it's not in much to sell these films to, because they don't give you much money back. There's not a shared revenue model that allow you to cover if potentially go forward with that. But would you ever work with a filmmaker and advise them indeed to do? Is it something that you would be open for them? If they're willing to do that, not thinking of the money side, then you go for it.
No, I'm just critical of it always, that I would always really, like now also Fam's film, The Unseen River, premiered a month ago at Mubi. This definitely gives him a lot of visibility now, also for the feature that he's working on, for the new short. So things like this I'm always trying to think like, okay, what is the benefit of being on something like this? But I also have to say, like, I'm kind of I also like the idea of exclusivity, like films that disappear after they played in festivals. Like I really have I remember that in Hamburg, there was at one point a thematic program where I saw a film that I haven't seen ever again after that. But it's always in my mind, like if I could ever curate a program somewhere, that's one of the films that I would like to show, just because I would like to see it again. So I like this idea of exclusivity also in a more like kind of nostalgic, romantic a concept of really that you can see cinema in a cinema space, and outside of that, it's just more difficult to come across it. So having everything online available constantly, I don't necessarily see the value in sometimes. So I would always be really just making clear choices instead of just being like, I'll just throw it on 20 platforms and maybe I earn €100, which again is still okay money. Like I'm sometimes critical that I see like, okay, we only can invoice €20 now from a film in for half a year. But then it adds up for a filmmaker is that if that's on a couple of platforms. So it makes sense. But sometimes I think like maybe it's better if you don't need it to just not do that. And then in the long run, it maybe pays off. And then platforms like Le Cinema Club, again, back to Vam, he's going to be premiering one of his old shorts that hasn't been seen after the festival run on Le Cinema Club soon. So that's also something that he loves, that platform. He's watching it also a lot of times. So he just likes being on that platform. So it's really a choice to also just have that relationship with them and be able to showcase that work again. It will only be online for a week, I think. And then after we'll probably take it offline again. So it's just like kind of creating these moments of attention and really approaching it like that. And I think that's again something that a sales agent or a distributor where you have kind of this more like function as an agent where you're really thinking about like, okay, but what is the idea behind this? Or maybe as a publicist, I don't know, that you're really thinking about like, okay, how can you showcase your work and not just have it every where. So it's more that approach. Like I'm not super critical of these platforms, although like a platform like Vimeo, I like the people working there, but it's also $1 billion company. So why are filmmakers not being paid anymore? So I am critical of that, but I also see what the payoff can be of having a Vimeo staff pick for future jobs and things like this. So it's it kind of is like a double-edged blade always.
No, it's about the tension between what you think is ethical because you put money and creativity and a whole team that maybe wasn't even paid into a film, and then there's a company which comes and puts it out there. It's content for them, they make money out of it in a way, and they do. And then for you, the only thing, it's like an internship, right? You get the experience. Thank you. So I would love to jump into the $1 million question as well. We don't have any questions, by the way, from the audience so far, which of course, if you have, please go ahead. The people who are listening to us at home, we still have 15 minutes. If not, I'll go ahead and ask, and maybe this is for Catherine, do we have an audience for shorts after the festivals, after the events, way that we lured an audience in because it's an event where people get together, those are premieres. After the festival, there's not this premiere context anymore, but are we seeing that indeed the audience actively seeks short films as a way of seeing film outside of this festival scheme? In your opinion, and I know this is not obviously it can be a fact.
I
from
hope
anyone.
so. Otherwise, I can quit right away and close my computer. That's the aim of what we do. So it's the goal of what we do is to show things that people don't see because they don't go to festivals. I mean,
it's a provocative question, of course, Catherine.
So that's what we try. I mean, I'm sure we open up to another audience when we show it on TV. so I'm still confident that we really have a job to do when we do the magazine, and that's the motivation I get from it. Otherwise, I can kill myself. But no, but
Please don't.
but it's of course it's difficult shots. I mean, why do they put out? They put it also at the end of the program. We have a nice website, but we are quite under, or you have to scroll down to find the shots. So, but I know from the mail that I receive, etc., that we touch people that we wouldn't touch if there was no magazine. That's precious, I guess. Also for the education of young people, I have a lot of teachers working with the stuff we do. So this is, I mean, otherwise I don't know my audience. I mean, I'm not in a theater. I don't see them, but I have quite a lot of comments, and I know that it's seen and it's used, if you want to. I mean, it's shown to other people, so to a group of people that wouldn't go to festivals because it's not them. They wouldn't pay an accreditation to go to a festival. So we really open up to another audience, because for quite a lot of people, shorts are, they don't know what it is. You know, we of course we are in it completely. So you're talking about shorts, but for quite a lot of people, what is a short film? You know, they disappeared from TV quite a long time ago, also, and also from the theaters. I mean, now that you have shorts before long feature films, but I can remember at the TV when I was younger, you had shorts within the day. I mean, it was you had an aesthetic approach of what it is. And I think it has been lost, and I think that's why it's so important to have a specific slot dedicated to this aesthetic. It's another kind of aesthetic.
Anyone wants to answer the provocative question too?
I mean, I hope that there's an audience outside of festivals, but I think it's more, you just need advocates for the festivals, for the film. So I think like what you mentioned all the way in the beginning, like these programs of 3 shorts from Portugal. This was possible because there's a distributor taking the risk of actually distributing a short film program. So it's just, I think that there's an audience for it. But when I worked in a festival, we also did this program of screening short films in front of features in cinemas. Nobody's really waiting for that. But then also we got reactions of people that really loved the films. But it's just people don't know. They just see it on the internet constantly for free. So why would you go to a program of it? And if you say like 3 short films by Portuguese female directors, like how can you sell that program? Like it's just difficult, I think. And then you have like, oh no, but it played in these big festivals that can kind of push it. And a friend of mine did a film, Mind My Mind, Floor Adams, a Dutch animation, 25 minutes or something, I think, which had more than 10,000 visitors in cinemas in the Netherlands. But again, like this is really because they were able to push that film. They really pushed it on the topic of the film. So it's just, I think you just have to convince an audience that they want to see this. And festivals is just the easy way. I mean, it's not only short films. I think documentary has the same problem. If you look in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam at the documentary festival, everything is sold out. And then we just released a film, a documentary in cinemas in the Netherlands, and we have 1,000 visitors. It's just like outside of festival context, it's difficult if you work with a more non-narrative film, I think. So it's just for every genre. It's difficult to find an audience, and you just need people to advocate for it. Yeah.
No, it's about the way you package them and you present them, and you find an angle that could be attractive for an audience to be lured in indeed. Right.
If I can add just one thing, because I think everything was said, but I think the importance of festivals for the film's career come from a very, very important notion of an event. I mean, for feature films, the event is the film finally being in the cinema and people are paying tickets to go see the new Marvel movie. But for short films, the event, people watching the film, is the festivals. People, going out of their houses and going to festivals. I mean, they usually don't even know what they're gonna see because there is no media around short film. I mean, there is when the films are selected to Cannes Film Festivals, and there is media when, for example, Arte has a whole program of short films, and then people want to see it because they know Arte. But without festivals, short films couldn't exist. But there are not just festivals. There is also events like independent events of that are independent of festivals, because I don't know how to explain. In France, for example, we have something called La Fête du court-métrage. It could be translated in the short film party, and it's for a whole week, and this event does events in a lot of places, in libraries and in cinemas and schools, and and so short films are being put in the media because it's a very known event in France. So yeah, and having films on platforms like Mubi or Universiné is also an event in itself because the public is reached. As soon as the film is on a platform, then the public is reached. So, yeah.
Thank you, Andre. I think I would venture into the last question here, and hopefully you'll give me a hopeful feedback and not a fatal one. More like, well, how do you see the future of short film coming up? Not the format itself, of course, but we're talking about the logistical context of it, which is the distribution one. And which opportunities do you see coming up in the future for shorts, or do you actually just reckon that things are going to keep more or less the same as they've been so far?
I think hybrid festivals, I mean, it's already our present, but it's also the future because it's more and more used. It started during the pandemic. I mean, not hybrid, but online festivals started during the pandemic, and it was chaos at the beginning. I don't know how you deal that, but for us was something. Because films, even films that were already sold to TV channels, were broadcasted on the internet for free with no geo-blocking, and so that was chaos. But then festivals learned to, deal with that, and now there is hybrid festivals, and everything is into place. I think they all can work it out with hybrid festivals since the pandemic, and TV channels such as Arte now structured hybrid festival sections for films that they pre-bought or bought, like for conditions on how to put the film online. If the film was bought by TV channels, they put their conditions like a few months ago so that the festivals know what's going on if they select this film. Because we can't just put everything on the internet. I mean, we couldn't work if that was the case, unfortunately. So yeah, I think that's our future.
Yeah, like the same about the festivals. I think it's also that hybrid will be more of a thing, although I think we will go slowly to more return of the classical festival as before, just because it's so much work to do a good and online and offline festival. I mean, from my past, I remember that having only an offline festival is already enough stress. So then also managing a proper online part, I don't think is completely realistic. But with these hybrid festivals, I also saw that festivals start paying more for shorts. So in a way, there's a bit more revenue generated for short films, which I think is hopeful. And I have the feeling that short films are also just getting more attention in general. Like if you look at the past year, I think both in Cannes and in Venice, there's, for instance, anthology film. Like in Cannes, you had The Perfect Storm, I want to say that the title was, Everlast Storm, that was in the Kinzen. With, for instance, Dominga Sotomayor, her a new short film, and a couple. So I have the feeling that people are more seeing the value of short film as a format, also for bigger directors. I mean, a few years ago, you also had like Lantimos and a number of other directors making short films. So I do think that with bigger directors doing that, on the one hand, they kind of steal the spotlight sometimes of other short film directors, but I also think that it's creating more value for short films, that people see that this can be a format that's not only for beginning filmmakers, and that there's a value in it. So in a way, I do see that short film is getting a better platform, reaching a bigger audience through these hybrid festivals. But it's, yeah, I just really look forward to when festivals are really able to take place like before, mostly for directors, that they are able to travel again, because that's a part which I missed the most the past year, is that festivals were the space where these directors meet other filmmakers, that they can exchange ideas with, can meet us, the industry. And that's something that hardly happened, like with Sundog, that played in Ghent, played in Rotterdam, and after that, everything went online. So for the first 8 months of that festival run, the director wasn't able to travel anywhere. So I'm happy that that's now slowly coming back again. So yeah, so I hope that just this talent development part really will become an anchor again of festivals. And I think also because of the past year and a half, festivals saw like this is the value that we are actually contributing, which misses when we have only this online part. So I think that's also kind of a realization again for festivals, what really a big purpose of them is. Yeah.
But we hopefully will come back to meet each other in real, because this online stuff is quite annoying. But I also, I'm like what I think also that the shorts are, it depends how you qualify it, but I see it on Arte. Excuse me, I'm speaking German and mixing everything. I've been in France too long. Bon, bref. Because we have also, well, we have this magazine, but we have also the short web series formats, which are going very well also, and so it will be a mix of short things, and that's why it's interesting also for us to continue to buy or co-produce films from we co-produced a few years ago a film by Miguel Gomez, or this year I've been co-producing a film from Radu Jude. The big names are coming back to shorts. It's always a chance or to put the spotlight on it again, and to explain to people that it does exist, and it's the aim of our magazine also. It's really a format in itself. It's not something for beginners. It can be for beginners, but our aim is really to show it as a form in itself, as an art form in itself. So I'm quite optimistic, even if I have to fight, of course, every year on Arte to exist, to keep existing. But I'm less scared than the years before.
I think everything has been said already. I think it will always be a fight, because short films are not films; they're short films. So it will always be something special and blah blah. But at the same time, there are so many initiatives popping out of the ground nowadays that make me very hopeful. Now it's talking shorts as well, for which I write every now and then. Like, there's more criticism about for short films. There's big online discussions. On Twitter, you see a lot of people discussing short films. I mean, there's stuff happening there. And of course, as a festival, wearing the head of a festival programmer, I always hope that coming together in a physical space and actually seeing a film on the big screen in a dark room with a bunch of strangers will be the starting point. But I'm hopeful that with all these new initiatives, the future of short film looks good, let's say.
Wonderful way to finish the panel. Thank you so much to the four of you for being with us at In Lisboa and also using your time of Sunday evening, especially for those of you who are outside of Portugal and Spain, which is all of you. And yeah, thank you so much. And I hope this was useful for the people, when the producers and filmmakers who are listening to us. Thank you so much.